or just hiding behind something. That's a choice to not live out loud. And I told her, you gotta live this. And when you choose to do that, make a choice and be the most incredible woman you could ever be in your life.
My name's Delia.
I'm Natasha.
Hi, Natasha. I'm Laura.
Nice to meet you guys.
You too. You're
Thank
so
you.
beautiful.
Thank you. You too. I appreciate you guys having me here. I'm excited to talk. Let's do this.
So you're a parent of a trans child. Tell me all about that. I'd love to hear that one.
So I'm a mother of a trans daughter. You know, I hate when parents say that they didn't know, that they were clueless to what was happening. I would like to say that from day one, I knew that there was something different.
Oh.
I had already birthed one child, a son, and when Naomi came, it was something very special about her. I could not put it in words. I was young, but I could tell very young that there was gonna be some type of special bond or relationship that her and I were gonna have, and that I needed to grow because she was growing me up in a way that I did not understand. But very young, I would say from about 2 years old, she just displayed a lot of femininity. She had a lot of expression, and you could just tell she just stayed up under me. And it's like, go play with your trucks, go play with, she didn't want it. And I didn't force those things upon her. But as life went on, you know, I started to realize that a lot of the things that she was attracted to, my son wasn't attracted to those things. So she would whisper in my ear and say, can I have a Barbie doll? And, you know, at that time, I'm in a relationship with a man who was not accepting of those things. So I didn't know what to do. But I started to realize that as a mother, we have to make big decisions. And sometimes those decisions will change the dynamics of a family. And I made a decision to raise my children alone because I knew that there was going to be something in my life that I was going to face, that I was going to have to face by myself.
Wow.
And so as time went on, the universe was just moving me and shifting me in so many different ways with all of this information that I really could not put on the table and say this is what it was. And I wasn't going to say, as Naomi was getting older, are you gay? Are you straight? Like, what's up with you? But I started to realize, you know, from the way she wanted to wear her hair to the clothes, you know, it was like, can we go to Forever 21? And I'm like, well, I didn't know that they really had boy stuff. And she's looking at me like, because I never wanted that, you know? I just, young, I let her do things that I knew people would not agree upon. But I had to take the wheel and say, this is my child, and this is our family, and this is what I'm doing. Even though in the Black community, this isn't something that you see. You know, I didn't know about trans. It wasn't something that people were outwardly saying in my community. So, you know, they would pick fun of her very young all the time. Oh, you're gay, you're this. And she would come home, you know, and I just realized one day this kid is gonna come to me and tell me something because there's a big elephant in the room. The elephant was huge, and I'm just like, can we get this elephant out of here? Because I didn't know how to parent her.
I have to write down that line. I know she's going to come home and tell me something.
Just please give me the information. Give me the information so I can better parent you. Because you want to go to the barbershop and get your hair cut? And it was like a fight. No barbershop. She wants to go with me to the hair salon. But this is before transitioning. So, you know, she's in 7th grade. And one day I come home from work. And to this day, I just felt like something was going on. And she's like, we need to talk. And I'm like, okay, what are we talking about? And she's like, listen, I'm not in the right body. This isn't working. I feel uncomfortable. And I'm like, okay, so what do you want me to do? And she's like, I'm not a boy. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, Mom, this does not feel right. I am putting on a front for all of you, and I'm not happy. And in that moment, that elephant was just like, boom.
Oh.
She's like, listen, let's go to the trans clinic at Children's Hospital. I need to talk to a psychiatrist. I need to get therapy. She took me and led me to where I needed to go. So I felt like she had already discovered herself. How could I step in and tell her, no, I'm not supporting this? You know who you are. I can't tell you who you are.
it's so wonderful to hear you, but in your core, what an incredible human being you are. And if you, as a parent, you couldn't have been a better parent to anything in the world, because all that matters is your child and you and your relationship. Everything else is just social judgment. And if you live for social judgment, you're never going to have a family. But if you live for your family, the social judgment will just come your way.
And I thank you for that, because I felt in that moment I lost everyone. You know, everyone's
And
like,
you
are you
will.
crazy?
You'll lose people
Yeah.
along the way.
But those
I
aren't my
feel for
people.
every
But you'll
person I've
gain more
lost,
people.
I've gained 5 other people that admired me, loved me, found power and strength from me, or became a best friend.
See?
So you will lose people, and that's a sad reality, but you will gain so much more.
And you know, for me, what I decided as soon as we made the decision that, well, you know, Naomi, her brother, he said, Mom, listen, the last thing that I would ever want is to come home and find her hanging from the shower or the closet. We have to support her. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie and make it seem like there was not struggle during the way. Oh, it was a lot of struggle. It was tons of struggle, because now I don't know, do I put her in school? Do I take her out of school? How do we live? Now, I made this decision. How do I do this alone with no support, you know? And I just said, listen, first things first, we have to find a therapist. And so we got a therapist to come to our house 3 days a week to sit with her. I removed her out of school. I took her out completely and homeschooled her. And we did that for 6 years, homeschooling, which was really hard. You know, I don't know how I'm doing at times.
So, since this is on the table, I have a trans child as well.
Okay.
Something that I typically let them run with, but they came out to us before I came out to the world, and by then, like you said, we already knew.
Wow.
We already knew. We had a daughter, and she loved Barbies and dress up and dresses, and then we had our second child, and who was born female. I think it was like they were 3 or 4 years old when they said, I will never wear a dress again. And I don't want my hair long. I'm gonna cut all my hair off if you don't get me a good haircut. And they were very adamant about it. Since then, they've changed their name. They're legally hoping to change their name shortly. They're on blockers. We found out that schools, even in LA, they're super accepting, but there's so many of these weird things that caught us up. If their lunch lines were split up by boys and girls, they would get in the girls' line, but they had looked so much like a boy by then that they'd get kicked out of that line and they'd go to the other line, but then they'd have to go to the end of the line. And my child wasn't getting lunch on multiple days because they kept getting kicked to the back of the line. We homeschool as well. That's really beautiful that you do that. That's a tough decision that we've been, I think it's been 2 years now that we've been doing that.
Yep, and this was 8th grade, because for her, she was going to school and the kids were literally following her home every day and fighting her. The boys and the girls beating her up. And it got to a point for me, I'm like going to the school, talking to the principal, talking to the counselors, everyone, and they're like, they would never come to me and say, you know, what is she going through? And I wasn't going to them and giving them the business that we were going through at home, but I had to make a decision that this is not a safe environment for my child. And, you know, during the homeschool, I told her, I said, if you are going to choose this, because when I say choose, I don't think being trans is a choice. I think that is how she was created. But you're choosing to live it out loud. That is a choice, because when you spoke earlier, you were saying that some people are living, you know, either getting on drugs or alcoholism or just hiding behind something. That's a choice to not live out loud. And I told her, you gotta live this. And when you choose to do that, make a choice and be the most incredible woman you could ever be in your life. And I'm gonna challenge you to that. And so, you know, her and I just tell her when she's feeling down, I'm like, you gotta get up. This is what we're doing. This is how we're living. We're not hiding from anyone, because that's not the choice we made when we discovered that this was something that was hurting you.
What is she doing now?
So she just graduated from high school.
Yeah.
While in high school, because when you're homeschooling, you still have time to do other stuff. So I had her go and take a makeup course so she could become a makeup artist.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you're in the house,
Some tips.
doing your makeup all day. I'm like, take this and make this a profession, So she's completed that, and now COVID has come, and I can see her like trying to figure it out now. Now it's like, okay, well, what do? I can't go work. What am I doing with my life right now? So I think right now it's hard for her in a lot of different ways. Trying to find your tribe of people, that's kind of difficult. Trying to find people that not only accept you, but are being understanding and willing to not take that information and then put it out there to everybody. Because when you're young, it's hard being trans.
That was the point of us creating the club at the Oxwood, Club Shine, which was now, it was 13 years ago and ended a couple years ago after we lost the lease on the building. But we were quite successful for a little over 10 years, and we based it not so much on a nightclub, but on a community club where people could come and share as a community, but also have a good time too, with dancing, DJ, everything, all the cool stuff. It was successful, and the run, when it ended, it was almost like it was time, because all of a sudden the rest of the world was opening up to the community. That was before 45. Okay. The world was opening up. People could go almost anywhere, more so in California, not so much, still a lot of states were not all that great yet, but California, especially Los Angeles and the coast, was very open. And so you could see it opening up, blossoming. But I think the key was community. As you called it, the tribe, and that's what we tried to create, was our own tribe. We, if everybody else was doing this, we were going to do the same thing, but as a group, and support each other. So it's very important for people to find community in any way, shape, or form. If I give any advice, it's find community. Yep. Because that's your support. That's what's going to get you through the tough times. And I think that if you don't find that, it's going to make things hard. And we are lucky in Los Angeles. We are lucky because people here, I don't run into hardly anybody who's intolerant about almost anything, with the exception of people that are raised that way and think that is how they're supposed to act. Yes. But if you talk to them, a lot of times you can change them. You can make them understand that this community is not trying to change you. We're trying to help you. All we ask is you accept us, and it's a better world. And 50% of the time that message gets through. I'm always amazed how many times it gets through. And that's the big thing, is don't run from those people. Don't challenge them physically. Don't call them names. Don't anything. Talk to them as a human being, as another person. Give them a chance to understand you. Show them you still respect them, that their beliefs may not be the best thing in the world for anybody, but I'm going to respect you as a human being. If you respect me as a human being, we can have dialogue. And that's where it starts.
Yeah, and I feel that's, when I first came to Los Angeles, I drove here in my car with my kids to find another reality for us.
Been there, done that.
And I wound up, I do nails, I'm a manicurist, and so I wound up opening up an all-men's nail salon on Melrose.
Oh, yeah.
Without any, I did not know at the time the type of men that I was going to be meeting, from gay men to straight men to bi men to trans men to men who were in transition, all different types of guys. And they were all attracting to me. And so now that I sit back, as you get older, you start realizing your experience in life are what made you to who you are. And so that moment in my life was preparing me for Naomi, was preparing me to accept and to understand, and have already had these conversations with so many different people. And when the time came for her to have this conversation with me, I had a support group. A supportive group of men who stood next to me and said, hey, I got you. You're falling, I'm gonna hold you up. Listen, it's okay. Listen, let me tell you this community or that community, or go to this doctor or this a therapist. And I was like, wow, you know, her dad wasn't there to support me, but I was encamped in so many different people through community, and then talking to them, and just like when you're given a manicure, you know, sometimes you just talk. And so I would say, you know, I think my kid is, you know, gonna come out and tell me something. And they'll be like, well, listen, I told my mom and I ran to LA because she didn't accept me. I just feel so grateful that I was in a place and in a space in my life to understand the beauty of the present that I got in my child.
That's a beautiful way to say it.
Well, I love the way that,
Yeah.
I love the way that you were ready to accept. I love the way that you were ready to accept, but and I'm also envious at the way your child was able to collect the data. I came out to my parents when I was 4 with the words that I had, and they were accepting, and they let me wear dresses around the house. And my dad kind of said to me one day, he's like, I don't care what you wear around the house. You can wear a dress, I don't care. But if you walk outside, you're probably gonna get your butt kicked and you're gonna get made fun of. And it wasn't until high school that I started wearing dresses to school, and I still didn't have the words to express what I was or who I was, but I tried my best. And I'm envious of children today. You said at 7th grade, they came and presented you with the information when I didn't even know the term transgender until I was like 18 or 19, I think, when I realized that there was a name for it. So I think that's beautiful. And my parents were pretty accepting. For living in the ghettos of Akron, Ohio, where the car industry went to die. I was really surprised that my family they lifted me up as much as they could with the information that they were given. And I'm very, your child's very lucky, because there are a lot of kids on the streets, and I'm glad you're there lifting them and not pushing them out.
I grew up in a Mexican-American family, and very, very Catholic religious, you know, and I'm very much a Jesus freak myself, but not so much on the religion side, just more spiritual side.
Yes, that's me too.
And I have to say that, you know, in high school, there was, I'm a little bit older than you, a little bit, that much. But in my day, you really didn't come out of anything back then. So the only way we could express ourselves mine was through music. I was really lucky that I was in an art form that allowed you to be expressive. And so for me, it was a matter of going on stage, being able to wear eyeliner and you know, listening to New York Dolls and David Bowie and all these bands that made life a little bit more accepting, because at the time that was sort of like cool.
Yeah, they were doing it.
They were doing it. So I could wear black nails, I could put on eyeliner stuff. Of course, and then when I got home, it was get everything off, go in and do the normal stuff, and then get back out on stage and be crazy again. And that was kind of fun. But I had to hide all that for a lot of years till after my career at Disney, and then decided that when I left that after a bunch of years, and I did quite well there, I said, you know, now it's time to see who I am instead of seeing who I wasn't, and it's been really good for me in that respect. The most important thing I learned was that I didn't realize how superficial my relationships were with the world, with people I knew. And once I came to this new community, my friendships became more real. The people I know, like just meeting you right now, I already feel a connection. I already feel like somebody I want to know. I can't say that happened before. I would meet people and it would be like, nice to meet you, see ya.
Close it off.
That was it.
Yeah.
Now I meet somebody and I see the other side, I see a deeper side. I see the person, and I want to know that person.
The depth.
The soul inside of you, and I want to share my soul.
Right.
I want to meet your daughter, you know. I want to get my nails done.
So do I. I know, like we were both just like, oh.
And so that's you know, for me that was a little bit of for me, not much of my whole story there, but enough to say that I get it. I just had to do it much slower because of when I grew up. No.
You're free.
Oh yeah, I've been free for a while, and it's like, Delia always tells me let's go do this. I'm like, I just do whatever I want.
I love that. You know, I think if Naomi was here to speak for herself, she would say that it was a slow process, because coming from her, she said, I've always felt this way, and you didn't know. So she would put on makeup, she would do nails, and I would see her and I would be like, you know, you can't go outside like that. And the look she would give me would be like, what did I do wrong? Because she didn't know. You know, she was just being herself. So when we moved here, and my son one day said, I think you should look under her bed. And so I go under her bed, and there's like all these girl clothes.
I had two older sisters. I had two older sisters, so again, I was very open with my family about it. But yeah, I stole all their old clothes. All the hand-me-downs went straight to me. There was a point where I was stashing stuff, but I'm talking 3 or 4 years old, you know. And then, like I said, my parents gave me that little safe space, you know, that space in the world where I could just like unfold and be myself, wear what I want, be what I want, and talk how I want. It's interesting, you know, I've met friends that I haven't seen in 20 years. And I had one friend look at me and cry and just be like, it was all a lie, wasn't it? Wow. And it's just like, it wasn't all a lie, but that I really, you know, I spent a good part of my life trying to act like what I thought people wanted to see me as, not being myself.
When we were doing American Stranger on stage in Hollywood, and at the play or at the musical, your father showed up. And there's on cameras, one of our cameras that was taking video of it, we captured a moment, and I've got to find it somewhere, where Delia, who's performing in the play, goes over to the audience and hugs her father. And that was so special.
And he started crying. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm starting to like choke up. So since we brought that up, let me touch on that whole experience. So it was my dad's 70th birthday, which happened to coincide with the weekend of the opening of American Stranger, which is where I live with two siblings that were sisters of mine, who are exactly like my sisters. When she gave me the script, I actually thought she looked up my life. Wow. And it happened to fall in line with Los Angeles Pride 2019, which was the 50th anniversary of Stonewall, so it was gigantic. We were asked to walk in the transparent contingent because we were just in the movie. So my dad and my spouse and me all walked in LA Pride together. I couldn't be more proud of that whole experience. And then like my dad came to opening night, there's a song that was called Hear Me, and it's talking about just hear who I am. This is who I am. And yeah, and that moment happened, and I've wept about that several times, that a 70-year-old man from Akron, if he can do it, I know everybody can do it, anybody can do it.
Absolutely.
Sales plug at the moment, that's on our first album, American Stranger. You can get it on Spotify or anywhere you want. I think it's the fourth song, it's called Hear Me, just FYI. Okay, back to...
And I have it on vinyl, and I go live every Saturday, and I'll throw it on there one of these weeks.
I want you to do a remix. Well, actually, I got a new one coming out. We just did one called The Truth, and it's very similar. And we have one about the protests, too, because we're big supporters of BLM. So we have one coming out called Scream, which is talking about the way it feels on the streets today. I should let you read the lyrics to see what you think on that, but we want to really support what's happening on the street, not the violence, but the real protest, the real reason behind what's happening. And I know because when I was a kid, we marched. I was tear gassed. I was hit billy clubs. My mom was hit with billy clubs, but it wasn't BLM back then. It was because we were Mexican American. It was because of the moratorium. It was because of the fact that the Vietnam War was hitting. And although I was a little kid, my cousin went to Vietnam and was killed in Vietnam. And the thing is that we had learned that African Americans and the Mexican Americans were being thrown to the front lines, and it was disproportionate, the amount of minorities being killed in Vietnam. So we started, well, I didn't, but my older brother was part of Chicano Law Organization, and they started marching and protesting against the Nixon administration, and it turned into the Chicano Moratorium. And Chicano Moratorium eventually evolved into a speech at Laguna Park in Los Angeles, East Los Angeles, where at that time my brother was supposedly going to be one speaker, and there was a person named Ruben Salazar who was news director for KMEX and a reporter for the LA Times, and they were speaking about the fact of this disproportionate number of Mexican Americans and minorities being killed in Vietnam. And so it was the purpose of it. And what we didn't know, while we were all sitting there peacefully in Laguna Park, all of a sudden we were surrounded by LAPD sheriffs, highway patrol, you name it, we were all there in riot gear, and they fired tear gas into the crowd, into where we were. I'm not gonna say, I'm somebody, I support the police, I support the sheriff's department, I believe they need to be there. But whatever happened that day, somebody bad said to them, fire into that peaceful crowd. And for whatever reason, I don't know, all I know is we went running down Atlantic Boulevard. Ruben Salazar got killed, he got shot in the head with a tear gas canister. They've renamed Laguna Park after it's now called Ruben Salazar Park. And that was my childhood. So what's happening today happened when I was a kid. And 5 years before that were the Watts riots. So it's cyclic, it happens, but every time it seems like we got a little bit better than the Watts riots in terms of movement and progressive things happening. And I think what's happening now with the BLM movement is better things are gonna come out of it down the road because people are seeing enough is enough. And Trans Lives Matters, BTLM is important because we have to see that there is change happening. The most important thing is, Dr. King said, peacefulness. If they hit your face, show them the other side, just like the Bible says. You have to do it the right way because the other extreme is going to come out and say you're only doing it for the wrong reasons. You're going to have to always turn the other cheek, but by turning it, they can't hit you anymore. And they realize they can't. And it's the same with being part of the LGBT community. If you fight physically, if you do the wrong things in terms of socially, then they're going to see that as the reason why you're doing what you're doing. But if you show them you're doing it for civility, for equal rights, for tolerance, they're going to come out in the end to respect you. You may not change them, but they're going to respect you. And it starts with respect.